Hi, Fanda. Welcome to this session.
Hi, Krista. Thanks for the opportunity.
Let's start then with the very easy and quick question. May I ask, how did you land to Alice?
I started my journey at in the multinational environment. I learned everything from the base there, starting from sales, leadership, processes, how to build a strategy, and it's like a university, to be honest, working at a multinational, especially at the beginning of the journey. I was lucky enough that the company invested in me, invested in us, so I had the chance to learn things, to work in a multicultural environment, which gave me a lot, to be honest. But after a while, I felt that, yeah, I have a really strong base, I have a good experience, but whatever I'm doing is not so impactful compared to working for a startup or a mid-sized company. And that's when I decided to move into a startup environment where I spent 2.5 years. But, like working for a startup, it's like dog years, like 2 years, 2.5 years fast like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, to be honest, from experience perspective, and also it was a very intense period. Alice is a really good middle way. We have a very strong base with some really good processes, with a really experienced team, with a solid expertise in GCP, with great references, but we are still in the middle of building something. I'm usually comparing this to how you are building a house. We have a solid base, we have some walls already, we have a roof that is not yet finished, but everybody is willing and moving towards the same goal to finish that house together. And that's why it's a very motivational environment, but at the same time, it's very challenging. But that's what I like, and that's why I joined, basically, to find a middle way.
To be honest, I can really relate to the dog years and also to the house example. And what motivates you the most personally?
What motivates me, it's when I'm seeing day by day the challenges basically that are facing and the problems that we are facing day by day, that these got solved. Whenever I'm receiving an email, for example, which states that please find attached the signed contract, this is something that feels like $1 million.
What defines a strong sales organization for you today?
A strong sales organization, it's about consistency. For sure, that's the number one. Being there constantly with the customer, understanding their problems, their challenges, is the base of everything. After that, obviously, having the right people. We have really good and constantly developing AI tools, technology stacks, things like that. But this is something that is not going to work without the right people onboarded, because like sales, and especially enterprise sales, is still about human-to-human relationship. So that's why the third point is that beside consistency and people, it takes time in order to be able to build those relationships, to understand the challenges of the enterprise customers, to build a solid relationship with the main stakeholders, which could be even sometimes with the bigger enterprise customers. We are talking about 20, 30, 40%. It takes time. So I think these three elements are very important if you want to have a successful sales organization, obviously with the right processes, with the right culture at the end of the day, and with the right motivational elements.
What's one sales myth that you wish that would disappear forever?
That sales is about selling. It's I know that it sounds a little bit crazy, but sales is not about selling. Sales is about really building long, lasting relationships, and it's about understanding your customer. Even if you are working in Lidl, or even if you are working for a high corporate company selling complex stuffs, it's really about understanding your customers, your potential customers. You are there to help them, basically connecting the dots and transforming their dream into tangible stuffs at the end of the day, and it's definitely not about selling.
Which skill helped you most as a salesperson that wasn't part of your job description?
Even if it sounds cliche, it's the proactivity. You cannot really force that. It will only work if you like what you do, if you like to talk to customers, if you like technology, because if you like this, you will read about it, you will try to understand it, you will call that customer. You are not going to wait for your customer to call you. You are not going to wait to someone to tell you what to do, but you will be a little bit always ahead of your competitors. You will be a little bit ahead of your customers, because that's the customer expectation, is also to drive them to the change, drive them to the transformation, help them. In sales, the customer is not going to call you that, "Hi Fenda, I have a really good idea. What about doing this and this and this, and I want this and this. Just give me the proposal, send me the contract, and we are good to go." No, it's not how it is going.
How have client expectations in the sales process shifted in recent years?
I think the number one thing is that customers are, 10 years ago, for example, like one of the main role of a salesperson was to educate the customers about what's happening on the market, what are the trends, how the technology is shifting, things like that. But nowadays, basically, the customers are much more educated, much more aware about what's going on, which is a really good thing, because they have access to dozens of technology stacks. But on the other hand, the expectations of the customer is way more higher. They are doing their own homework, which means that they are also expecting from you to have a deep understanding about their environment. 9 out of 10 discussions are about AI, which is not just a simple LLM or not just a simple Gemini or GPT. You need to understand their internal processes, their bottlenecks, their end customers, in order to be able to help them with the transformations. And that's a hell of a ride, to be honest, but it's how I mentioned at the beginning. This is something that motivates us, and that's why I think we have a role in this market.
And what's the biggest challenge in building trust with enterprise clients, and how do you address it?
The biggest challenge is time. On the first hand, we need to deliver fast. The customer expectation is also to deliver tangible outcome value to them in a timely manner. Obviously, there is also the company expectation to deliver value and revenue. But at the end of the day, this will be only successful if you are building the right trustful relationships with the customers. It takes time. It's very important that both for the customer and both for the company to have a long-term vision, where you would like to go, what you would like to achieve. And through that journey, obviously, you need to deliver some nudges, some successful PLCs, deliver the right revenue to the company. You need to make sure that you are communicating clearly. What are the expectations of the customer internally? Talk with the customer to understand their expectation, and also to clarify our expectations toward them, because at the end of the day, this should be a win-win. That's the only way how these customer relationships could be successful on long term.
How do you validate the customers with the sales team?
That's why it's very important to have a vision. What do we want to achieve as Ollie's, as a company? What do we want to achieve with the different customers? And what kind of investments do we need to do in order to be able to be here on a long run? At the end of the day, in order to be able to sustain the vision, we need the right revenue. So sometimes we are investing, but also with that investment, we also need some short-term revenue inflows with different kind of POCs, with different kind of initiatives. That's why, for example, those POCs are several times very important to validate us, Ollie's, that we are the partner of choice for the customer, to validate Google that that's the right technology that they are looking for. And also at the end of the day, to validate the customer that they are the right customer to invest in and to build something on a long run. Because Obviously, when we are working in sales, the customer has several expectations, but I think it's very important also to have expectations toward the customer, because we can invest into them, but if you're not seeing that dedication, there is no project management from the customer perspective. They are not investing time. They don't really want to change, then sometimes it's also good to step back a little bit and give some time towards the customer to clarify their expectations. And if our expectations are going towards the same direction and there is a match, that's what we are looking for, basically, to have a match on a long term rather than having a match on a short term.
How do you define if a customer is ready for this transformational change?
It's about discussing with the right stakeholder, at least one person who is owning the strategy. If they really have on the top of their agenda this change, this transformation, an innovation project, whatever it will be at the end of the day, that's very important to validate. After that, to see if they have enough budget for that, they have the right authority from the board to do that at the end of the day, and if they have a timeline in your mind. Even if it's not going to happen in that timeline, or they will need less or more budget, at least to know that these pillars are defined. And if they had that's a good first step to see, okay, let's move on. But this sounds very easy, but this comes with time. So this validation can come even sometimes after 1 year, when we invested 1 year. So it's not just a meeting and you are just ticking some stuffs.
I believe this is a great guide for many companies. How do sales and delivery teams best collaborate to strengthen client relationships?
If you want to be successful, you need two main elements. You need to make sure that you are showing a clear and a strong vision. And the second one is the communication. These are the two crucial elements, because in a world like this one, basically the role of the sales person is to orchestrate different teams with different dynamics, with different personalities. But you need to, at the end of the day, show one vision, and what's the vision of the customer combined to what's the vision of Ollie's. And there should be a match between these two. A project is, again, like it's a roller coaster. There are ups and downs always. And when some things are going to the wrong direction, that's the most critical part. When you need, as a salesperson, you need to be a stable pillar of the team, and you need to make sure that both expectations are clarified. We are going towards the same vision. You need to unlock the bottlenecks, basically, give some motivation to the team and to the customer, and start to go step by step again towards the top of the hill. And that's a very difficult job, to be honest, but it's very rewarding. You will only see when you are again on the top that this works, the stuff. You never know when you are down. And that's true in life, not just obviously in customer relationship, that how good it will be when you will be there, or if you will be back, because sometimes it's not, and you need to accept that.
And what advice would you give to aspiring sales leaders in the tech industry?
It's still about lifelong learning, I believe, in sales, and especially in tech sales. The industry, the technology is changing so fast that you don't need to keep the pace, you don't need to know about everything, but you need to educate yourself, and not necessarily to educate your customers, but in order to have the right food for thought for understanding the dynamics within the companies, what they are doing, what is the direction that they are following, in order to be able to advise them towards going into the right direction. So lifelong learning is very important. In the past, companies were mainly looking for doers. Do that call, send out that email, do that follow-up, things like that. It's not anymore about that, and especially with the technology, changing technology, it's not going to be about that anymore. You need more like thinkers and visionaries in the future, who are able to think together with the customer, how an organization will look like if they are doing this kind of transformational project, how it will change their day-to-day life, because the doing itself will be done by the technology itself. It's already here, and even if not all the stuffs are working perfectly yet, it's going to work in the very near future. So it's not about doing anymore, it's about really thinking, using more and more your brain, and having a really, really future-proof thought.
And I believe that at Alice, basically, many all of us got used to this approach. So yeah, I can also very much relate.
I would say that we are also on a transformation journey. Like we are always talking about this with our customers, but we ourselves are also in the transformational journey, like all the other customers on the market. And it's not only about the customers. I think every people on this planet is now embracing this transformation, which never happened in this history. Even if it happened, it was in a way longer span.
Thank you. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining this session today.
Thank you, Krista, for the challenging questions. To be honest, it really made me think about some stuffs, and it helped me also to gather my ideas, and I really appreciate that for being here today.